We're back with Jenny Gore Dwyer, and we discuss ALS, how that touched her family, Pat, and how they were able to continue with the fishing business, and also the decision that made them want to add another boat to the fleet. So now they have 3 boats, and they were able to continue the family business and the legacy of Pat living on through their business and their family. I'm Megan Waldrop, host of the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast, an extension of an online community for partners to connect and feel less alone. Our podcast invites fishermen, family, friends, and supporters of the industry to learn, laugh, vent, and hear stories about this incredibly unique way of life. What do you say? Let's dive in. And I want to switch gears now. Pat, who we send so much love to you and to Pat, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And I admire you so much for the journey that you've taken to champion and to be a part of the ALS movement and research and get the word out and have more exposure and just be really supportive of that community. And, you know, we just love you and Pat so much for everything and your family that you've gone through. And so I read in one of Jenny's stories that you'll read on the blog. Also, Jenny has an incredible blog, Crabby Mama blog. I'll also link that too. But one of the stories that she shared with us was when Pat was diagnosed with ALS and he was 44 years old. And that really, I read it back yesterday, and that really hit me. I'm 42 and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they were kids. They're very young. And then what made me smile was the fact that Pat wanted to add another boat, and he wanted to name it after his daughter, which is so incredibly touching. And so, and very fisherman-like in the sense of, no, I still got another project to do. So I don't know what all this talks about because we got business to take care of. So I wanted to discuss that, adding another boat. So on top of everything else that was going on, was adding another boat, was that kind of a happy distraction for you in a sense? I don't know if happy is the right word, but was that a good distraction to have throughout that process?
It was. So yeah, Pat was diagnosed when he was 44 in June. And you know, it literally took us 3 months before we could even talk about it together, because I mean, in ALS, it's 100% fatal. There are some treatments that extend life, but it's extending life by 6 months. And in the ALS world, that's a long time. So it's just kind of this really horrible disease. And so my thought was, let's sell everything. Let's go sit on a beach in Hawaii. Pat loved the sun, and let's just kind of have this time. And he was like, no, I think I'm going to buy another boat. And it was a distraction for him. It was of course, you know, my dear Pat doesn't buy anything that doesn't need work. So it was a project for him, and it was a project for he and Sean to work on, and Brenna too, who worked on the boats in the summertime. And it was just you said the right word. It was a happy distraction for him, and it gave him, in the midst of this horribleness, it gave him a purpose. And you know, you gotta keep looking forward when you're in the fishing industry, right? And so it gave him something to look forward to, which was getting the boat out and getting it fishing.
Wow. And how long did he and the family live with ALS?
So 8 years, which is
8
a
years.
really long time. The typical lifespan is 2 to 5 years. And he had a slow progression of his disease, which we were all thankful for. But as he said, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, because the disease eventually paralyzes you. And for Pat, being in the fishing industry, he was a great talker. I mean, he was one of those guys on the radio when he was in the wheelhouse, chit-chatting about this and that. So for him, it was very devastating and, you know, proud, proud man and to lose the ability to dress yourself and feed yourself. And his bottom line was that when he wasn't able to communicate in real time anymore, that he was going to be done with the disease. And fortunately for us, that was one of the last things to go for him. I was pretty much the only one that could understand him when he was talking, just because I was around him 24/7. But um, yeah, so it was 8 years of the disease. But the first probably 4 years, we were still kind of going, well, maybe this won't be so bad, but then it gets bad.
Got it. Okay. So 4 years and then things really started to change. And how was what did caretaking look like for you?
So once Pat lost the ability to use his hands and his arms, you know, the kids and I kind of became his hands and his arms. And for the business, that meant, one of us would be on the computer with him. One of us would be typing and sending emails with what he was dictating to us. On a personal level for me, that meant, getting him dressed, brushing his teeth, cutting his food for him, helping him get in and out of bed. And it's just, if you think about not using your arms or your hands at all and trying to navigate through your world, it's pretty impossible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How did you find support during that time, or were you able to find some kind of a support system?
Well, like the fishing community, the ALS community is amazing. I mean, you can connect to other fishermen because you know what they're going through. You know what they've been through. When it's a bad fish year, I mean, your heart goes out because you know how hard the winter's going to be. And it was like that in the ALS community. I met people online and I met some people that lived here locally in Seattle. And, with each loss of mobility comes another stage to the disease. And so you could talk to someone in the community and say, oh my gosh, Pat can't hold a fork anymore. And people immediately know what that means. And so the support I found was instant and so helpful.
It's beautiful. It's so great to know that that is out there. If anybody out there listening, seek your ALS support community. They are there for you. Okay. So during this time, the Brenna A eventually was launched. At what point was she launched? How many years after you bought the boat?
Oh, I think we actually had it tendering a year after we bought it. I mean, pretty quickly. It was tendering. Pat just never saw it crabbing. So he did see it working, and so that was his goal, one of them. And so that was a good day when it headed out.
Yeah, that's amazing. And okay, so I want to talk about this a little bit, and then I want to talk about your third boat. But right now, I'd love to talk about your involvement with the ALS Therapy Development Institute and what kind of work they do and what kind of work you do with them.
So ALS Therapy Development Institute, we call it ALS TDI, is the world's largest ALS only research lab. That's all they do 24/7 is research the disease. And that means, looking at different chemicals or compounds that might help slow down the disease. They run through a series of different kind of research experiments yearly, and are able to eliminate things that they don't think will move forward. Research has really changed over the years. It's become a lot, I don't want to say easier because it's still really hard, but there have been things that have changed with technology that make it easier to do research. You're able to, kind of take skin cells from people with ALS, and you can kind of grow ALS in a dish and test things that way as well. And so ALS TDI has a research program that they are working on, and if anybody wants any information, I'm happy to talk to them about that. And so it's strictly research. And I remember when I walked into the lab the first time in Boston, they're located in Boston. I was so overwhelmed. And it was like there are people who are working on this disease 24/7, because when you're sitting home at your computer at 3 o'clock in the morning going, there has to be something out here that's going to help my husband. And you walk into the lab and there's people actually working to make that happen. It will never be fast enough, because it's a really hard disease to research. You can't go in and take a little piece of a nerve cell and do that and research on it, like you can with cancer. You can go in and take a little piece of the tumor cell and find out what you're dealing with. So I feel really fortunate to be a part of that. I serve on the board of directors at ALS TDI. They asked me to join the year after Pat passed away. No, it was actually like 6 months after Pat passed away, and I've been involved with the board since then. But I'm also involved in the community. I'm on a lot of Zoom calls, not related to TDI, but just part of the community, being out there, being aware of other things that are going on within the community, within the research community. I just am out there to try and keep things, find out what's happening so I can help make a difference to end this disease.
Well, thank you for all your work. And that's so beautiful to know that they are people actively on your side, on everyone's side who is dealing with this. And they're there to make a difference. And so is Jenny. And so I'll also link Jenny's, your blog. Would that be the best way for people to get in contact with you if they had any questions about
or you can link my email or
okay.
My blog. I'm like the world's worst blogger. I don't think I've updated it for 3 years. So, I mean, I've done a lot of other writing, but I just, haven't put it on my blog. So this will be a good reason for me to get back on it.
Yeah. Your blog is so great. I mean, y'all have got to go check out Jenny's writing. You're just totally immersed in it, and you feel like you're just talking to your friend and she's telling you her heart. I mean, that's what it feels like. You're just
Thank you.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. So thank you for all that you do. And so Pat, his legacy lives on in boat number 3 and his family, his growing family. But since we're talking about fishing, boat number 3. So tell me how that came about. So Brenna A was launched, tendering, crabbing. How long has Brenna A been crabbing now?
I keep telling myself I need to put together a timeline. So when people ask me these, I can give them correct dates, because you know how the years blur. So we bought the boat in 2005, the year that Pat was diagnosed. And so she's been working since then. I believe her first year crabbing was 2000 and 16. Sean's gonna kill me because I don't probably have the date right, um, she'd been working for a few years.
Wow, that's almost 20 years she's been in the or it's 20 years since y'all bought her. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Well, we started our company in 1986,
Wow.
which is, I don't, can't figure out the math,
Yeah.
but
In the
a long time.
1900s.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Brenna was born in 1989, so she's 30. Oh gosh, I'm even gonna get this
No.
wrong.
It's
Anyway.
it's all good. We know. And then
Uh,
is Sean, and what's the age difference and then the birth order?
so Brenna was born in 89 and Sean was born in in 92. So there's 2.5 years between them.
Okay.
And it was, it was busy but fun.
I love it. Okay. And so Brenna A's launched, and then when was tell us about the idea to add boat number three.
Well, so, Sean came up and said, there's this boat for sale and it's a really good deal, Mom. And I'm like, okay, you sound a lot like your father right now. Um, but it was a good deal, and we felt like the time was right. And it also came with a cod permit, and so we felt like this would be a good time to kind of diversify. We had been fishing cod before. We leased a permit from one of our fisherman friends, and so when this opportunity came up and we would be able to have our own permit, we just decided to go for it. And, again, the plan that we had enabled us to do that. I mean, both the Bran and the Jen had been paid off for years. And, so we felt like we were in a good position where we could take on another, payment and, so we did.
That's awesome. And is that boat that is a cod fishing boat only, or is it both? It does.
No, I mean, it's the Old Determined, and it crabbed for years. I mean, it was built to go crabbing. We haven't had it crabbing yet. It's fished cod, and it tenders.
Okay, nice. Okay. And so I admittedly do not watch Deadliest Catch for obvious reasons. I feel like I try to not think about those moments in my head all the time when Chris is out fishing. So if you could, is the Brenna and the Jennifer and the Brenna, are they both fishing every crab season? Are they both out, or is it one or the other?
It's now it's the Bren. Now it's the Bren
Okay.
that fishes crab when there's a fishery. Yeah, it's just, to have two boats out there fishing, I mean, we would have to split our quota between the two boats, and
Um,
it just doesn't make sense to have two boats out there between the insurance and the gear up that comes and all the pots that you would need. So it's just we have one boat that will crab when there's crab
got it.
available.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And then, so the Jennifer is the tender in Bristol Bay.
Jennifer tenders, she's actually in Prince William Sound.
Okay.
She does her gig in Prince William Sound. And the Brenna A and then the Eleanor J, our third boat, they do Bristol Bay tendering in the summertime. And the Brenna has now moved to Prince William Sound. So
Okay.
just kind of after Bristol Bay, they just get dispatched wherever, the Trident feels that they need to be.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. And so, and then Eleanor J, who's this named after?
It's named after my mom.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
Yeah,
I love it. All the
yeah.
women in the family. And
Yep.
oh, are all the boats docked or on dry dock at the same place, or they all live in different areas?
Well, when we were crabbing, we kept the Brenna up in Dutch Harbor because it didn't really make sense to run her back and forth unless, we had her 3-year big maintenance shipyard that was due. We kept her up there, um, you know, year round. the Jen is in Fisherman's Terminal, and when we bought the Eleanor, she was also in Dutch Harbor. But last year was the first year that all three boats were tied up together down at Fisherman's Terminal, which
Oh, wow.
was great, but also scary because it meant the winter work wasn't, wasn't there.
Yeah.
So we just decided to bring them all back down to Seattle and give them a little maintenance makeover as we could and but typically, if they're working, we like to keep them up in Alaska.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. And I got to aboard one of your boats. I have it on the blog. I can't remember exactly which one, but it was being worked. It was a dry dock. I'm not sure where, but Chris and I were road tripping. I was texting with Bree and she's like, "Oh, we're here." And we were literally like 10 minutes away from where they were randomly. And so I got to meet Sean and Bree for the first time in person, and the skyscraper of a boat. I'm like, oh, wow, these crabbers are legit. I mean, it was like a building, and just crawling around it was fascinating. I loved being in the cabin. It was just like you could twirl. I mean, it was huge. There was a full-size fridge. I was like, wow, this is so much different than Chris's 32-foot H&H lobster boat. You know what I mean? But you could feel the personalities of everybody's boat. It's just so cool. And that was such a really defining moment for me to realize how diverse not only the fisheries are, but the freaking boats. Like, wow, just amazing. The people are able to handle that and, and financially handle it. I mean, really, because it's like bigger boat, bigger things to deal with, bigger price tags. And I mean, bravo that y'all have not only been able to manage that with one boat, but now you have three, and that's just beautiful. And to carry on the legacy. And now you have a little granddaughter that will soon, has she been on the boats? I'm sure, right?
Well, she's been down to the boat. She hasn't been on them while they're moving. I mean, she's been on Sean's boat,
Yeah.
but not on any of the big boats. But no, she knows the purpose of going down to the boat is finding the candy cubby and eating as much candy as you can.
So cute.
So that's the first step.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we get
life on the boat.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. She is so freaking cute too, by the way. What a beautiful family. And then Brenna is thriving. She's in Montana, isn't she?
She's in Montana, yep, and is loves it there. She's a horse girl, so she has her horse over there and is, in the summertime is horse show competition. So she's busy competing and loving that and doing really well. And I'm hoping to get over there in August to watch one of her shows. But yeah, she loves it there and has found her little space in life and just loves it. And Sean and Bree and Blakely are close by me here in Seattle, so I get to spend at least one day a week with Blakely, which is the best. I mean, when I was going to become a grandma, my friends who are grandmothers are like, "You're going to love it. It's the best thing ever." And I was like, yeah, but I really loved my kids. I really loved being a mom. I don't know how it's going to be different than that. And it's so different. It's so different. You can't even put it to words, but she is a little love. And Pat loved kids, and he would have been a great grandfather. So I tell her stories about him and so hopefully she'll have some memory of my probably jaded stories about him, but I try to keep his memory alive to her as well.
Oh, absolutely. And it lives on through her. And it's really fun to watch Bree and Sean and their little sweet family and flying to Alaska. And just, it's really cool how your kids have chosen two very like wild, untamed types of passions, fishing and then horses, and it's sort of like the Wild West in a nutshell.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I
awesome.
never looked at it that way, but
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in the spirit.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you again for your time. Is there anything that you would like to add about what we discussed today, or anything you'd like our listeners to know?
I just think that, especially now, the fishing industry is so unstable, and, none of us really know what's going to happen. I think the thing that kind of got us through those times were, number one, we had each other. And sometimes that was really loud and messy. It was really hard at times, but we had each other, and we always kept our focus on the business. And again, that got really hard, especially with Pat's ALS. And but because of what we had built, and the hard stuff that we went through in the industry, we were able to move it forward. And I think that has, his legacy has kind of kept us grounded, and always thinking back to, okay, this is what we've done forever. We made it through those times. We'll make it through these times. And I know times are totally different now. But I think if you just keep your focus and your goals in mind, and just move forward with that, you can make it work.
Thank you. That's such sage advice, and we appreciate that so much, for you to be on, sharing your heart with us and your past experiences, and helping us to learn how we can thrive in our own fishing businesses and in our relationships and our families. So we send you so much love, Jenny. Thank you. And so much love to you, and Sean, Brenna, Bree, and Blakely, always. It's such a pleasure to have you on, and I hope to see you again.
Thanks, Megan. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much for listening. To support our community, I'd so appreciate it if you'd tap the subscribe button to this podcast or write a review. And if you're a POCF who wants to connect further, go to POCFpride.com for weekly blogs and to learn about opportunities to join our private communities. We'd love to have you.